Fast and Furious presents Hobbs & Shaw is a new movie directed by David Leitch, and this movie stars The Rock, Dwayne Johnson as Luke Hobbs, and Deckard Shaw, who's being played by Jason Statham, and Vanessa Kirby is in this movie as well. And the plot of this movie is pretty much simple and stupid. Idris Elba plays the cyber-genetically enhanced supervillain who is trying to release a virus, and Luke Hobbs teams up with Deckard Shaw to try to stop Idris Elba's character from wreaking havoc with a virus. And we have the movie Hobbs & Shaw. The plot of this movie does not make a lick of sense, but that is the point of this movie. You have to remove all your disbelief of logic when it comes to these type of movies. Like this is like the ninth film in the franchise so far. So basically, going into this film, I removed all sense of belief. I knew for a fact that this movie was not going to make sense. I knew for a fact that these characters are going to have some stellar action sequences that doesn't really make sense. I knew what the film was going to give me because the film knew what it was. The film knows that its own plot doesn't make sense. The film knows that it doesn't have any logic within the movie. Also, some of the dialogue doesn't really make sense, but that was the whole entire point. There was a line that Idris Elba made in the movie where he rhymed genocide, menocide, and I'm like, what kind of supervillain would say, oh, genocide, menocide? But after knowing all of that going into this movie, I had a good time with this film. And one of the best qualities in this movie was the chemistry between Hobbs and Shaw. Well, just them going at it, butting heads. And those scenes with Hobbs and Shaw in it together was one of the reasons why I laughed so much in this movie. You can put Jason Statham and The Rock in the room together and have them go at each other verbally, and you will have a great movie.
I've told you many times, I work alone, and many times you always gonna be irritating. So how about I shove your head inside of a bear on top of a plane in mid-air and turn your ass into a princess?
So this sunny little princess gonna get a can of moonshine, take that cancer and shove that deep inside your ass. Then I'm gonna take my tutu and use that tutu to decapitate your head.
At least I'm not the one putting baby lotion on. I think I found another quality I don't like about you, and it's your face. You look like a little boy who's in a man's body, but yet who has a beard with no mustache. You are a weird wanker. Also, your eyes look so irritating, and it looks like God wants to vomit.
And also, I want to praise David Leitch's style in this movie, and I do like his action sequences with this. That some of the action sequences kind of made some of the execution a little bit bland, because there's times where he used shaky cam, and there's times where I feel like when he utilized his shaky cam during the fight choreography sequences, it did take away some of the impactfulness of the punch. In particular, this style did kind of irritate me in ways because it was a little bit jarring to the eyes. Outside of that, that's more of a nitpick in particular, because the action sequence was really cool, but I felt like the action sequences took a step back in this movie in particular. Despite some of the action camera movement that I had a problem with, this movie still had kick-ass action sequences, especially some of the cars that literally was unrealistic. The way they had this car like hooked up to this giant helicopter, it was unnatural. It felt like I was watching like some kind of Rescue Heroes or something. But I don't really have a whole bunch of flaws with this movie, and that is them trying to cram like a moral in this movie, where the other Fast and Furious movies had this moral code as in family, and Luke and Hobbs was trying to like add in this moral code. And I feel like that right there made the movie way too long, even though the movie was 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and the other movies is just as long, just like this one. It felt like the runtime was much longer because during the second act there was a pause and where it felt like it could have ended, but then they kind of stretched the movie for like an extra 15 minutes just so they can cram this moral code of family, where in the first and two acts they weren't even leading up to it or really hinting towards the family code. It's like all the writers was in the room together and they was trying to come up with different plots and different ideas for a film, and then they put different ideas on paper, they combine their notes and can put their notes together to create a good film, and then one person in the background was like, hey, you forgot to put family, man, because all the other movies were about family. And that was the reason why I felt like the movie felt way too long, and it felt like a little bit longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes, but that necessarily isn't a huge bad thing. It was just an issue I felt like it didn't really need to be there because it's a spinoff. It doesn't have to be like the other Fast and Furious movies. It can be different. Doesn't need to have a central moral code that Vin Diesel's character is known for having. I almost felt like the third act didn't really need to be there. But outside of that, this movie was good. I found myself having a good time. I removed all disbelief. I removed all logic. So that didn't really interfere. I turned my brain off and I was really enjoying this movie. This movie looks good. It was directed well. The action sequences was pretty good. In particular, had a problem with some of the shaky cam sequences, but that is more like a nitpick. The results may vary for each person. And after watching this movie, you will leave the theater hungry for more, and you will love the performances from The Rock and Jason Statham's character. Yes, Fast and Furious presents Hobbs & Shaw is definitely a good time at the theater, and you will enjoy it. I'm going to give this movie a Christian Bale Batman. This is a movie I'm going to buy on Blu-ray. Alright guys, that's my review of Fast and Furious presents Hobbs & Shaw. Have you seen Fast and Furious presents Hobbs & Shaw? Give me your thoughts on Fast and Furious presents Hobbs & Shaw. If you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel and join me in the Batman family. I'll have more Batman-tastic reviews on the way. You are furious. Till then,